relationship manage relationship manager of 10. For today's meeting, I am playing the role of interim chairman in place of Rahul Ambrute, who is the current chairman of 10. Rahul is traveling at present. So in my tasks, I am ably supported by Manoj Tahliani, who is the secretary of our group, and Mr. Ram Kumar, who is handling the social media for 10. The Entrepreneurs Network is a not-for-profit organization. The single-minded focus of 10 is to help entrepreneurs from different business fields to come together and succeed. We have a small, audio-visual introduction of 10. I'll just play it for all of you. Ram, you can see the screen, no?
Yeah.
Thane, Maharashtra's major industrial town, fastest growing and slated to be the most happening commercial hub. Over the last decade, Thane has grown from a small suburban town to a large, self-sustaining metropolis. Proximity to the financial capital of the country has extended ample opportunities to Thane for becoming the richest district in Maharashtra, with potent factors like well-planned infrastructure and low cost of operation. With growing opportunities and upcoming business ventures comes the growing need for business networking to learn, to explore, to connect, and to share avenues for mutual growth. Welcome to the Entrepreneurs Network, popularly known as 10. Established in 2010 with the intent of providing a platform for entrepreneurs to share their experience, to learn, and to educate fellow entrepreneurs, along with generating business opportunities for mutual growth. Our motto: connect, breakthrough, and prosper.
In 2009, basically, I was totally confined to the four walls of my own retail outlet. Probably that time I was feeling the need to get out of that those binded four walls. So there was a business networking group. I joined that, and after 1.5 years, basically there was some disconnect with that particular group. So we wanted to start something which was more Indianized. We wanted to do something to build a community of entrepreneurs. And in 2010, we started this 10 Entrepreneurs Network.
10 is a close-knit community of different business verticals across industries.
10 ने मुझे अभी जो फ़ायदा मिला है, काफ़ी फ़ायदा मिला है. बिजनेस अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ भी मुझे काफ़ी मिली है 2009 से. ग्रोथ काफ़ी हुआ है.
I love 10 as a network because it is very different from the other business networks what you see, and it has helped me a lot in my overall development for my business, for my relations.
And what I found, people around us are all wanted to grow in their business and help the society around. And I am so happy to join the 10.
After coming here, I found a different friendship, a different support system.
10 members contribute connections, ideas, and time to help 10 grow. Members are rewarded with training workshops, insights, network, and camaraderie offered by other like-minded entrepreneurs. They meet alternate Wednesdays from 7:15 a.m. to 9:45 a.m.
What I liked about 10 is more of a kind of a learning platform. So I learned a lot from 10, through different sessions, different workshops.
What I like about 10 is core functionality, which is continuous learning for entrepreneurs. That is, we can say it is a core function of 10 on which it operates.
10 has been extremely beneficial to me in enhancing my personality and making me equipped to face the challenges as an entrepreneur.
Connecting, breakthrough, and prosper, which is the mantra of 10, is something which I was seeking for in my business career.
10 conducts activities such as 10 Connect session, open minds, outdoor meetings, and annual conclave. 10 Connect session provides a robust platform to its members for learning and sharing experiences, one-on-one interaction, apart from addresses by internal and esteemed guest speakers. 10 Engagement also extends to events such as Open Minds, where established entrepreneurs and business owners are invited to share their life lessons and growth stories while interacting with live audience. It's an event that Thaneites eagerly wait for. Outdoor meetings are fun coupled with learning. It aims at increasing member bonding and interactions beyond regular meetings. It includes site visits, visiting fellow members' workplace, and short outings which are extremely high on fun quotient.
Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, they are exactly following that. That really brings me to here.
Since inception, 10 members have transacted more than 275 crores of business with its members and connects beyond 10 as we move ahead in this path of connecting for mutual growth. We look forward to more heads, more hands, and more hearts to come together. We welcome you to attend the 10 Connect session, to experience entrepreneurial energy, creativity, and motivation.
Let's give our classic 10 clap to 10, which goes 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 twice.
10. The Entrepreneurs Network. Connect, breakthrough, prosper.
Now I'll request Secretary of 10, Mr. Manoj Tyalyani, to take over the next part of the meeting. Over to you, Manoj.
Hi. Thanks, Mangesh. Yeah, am I audible? Good morning, everyone. Yeah. Good morning. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here with us today. Friends, there is a famous quote which says that the world is a dangerous place to live, not because of the people who are evil, but because of the people who don't do anything about it. Have you ever wondered what creation does the copyright law protect? Why is it important to copyright your creations? What are the advantages of registering your work, and which works are not protected by copyright? Advocate Vanshaj Mehta and Advocate Atif Sayed, associated from a reputed South Mumbai law firm, K. Singhania and Company, will be sharing the answers to these questions today. Members, please join in giving the audio. Thank you. Over to you, Vanshaj and Atif Sayed, please.
Thank you, sir. First of all, on behalf of my firm, I'd like to thank 10 Connect Group for providing this opportunity to present before you. As you all know, the topic for today is copyright law and how to protect and monetize it. I, along with my colleague Atif Sayed, will conduct this session. And without further ado, we just take you straight to our presentation. Can someone please confirm if the screen is visible?
Yes, Vanshaj.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's just jump into what is so let's just first start with what is copyright. Now, copyright is a type of an intellectual property. Now, what is intellectual property? Intellectual property is an intangible asset that gives protection to your idea, to your invention, or your brand. Now, these three words, copyright, patent, and trademark, are used somewhere or the other, are used interchangeably. Now, before we delve into what copyright is and how copyright works, I'd like to first take a few more minutes to make you understand as to what are the differences between these three rights: copyright, patent, and trademark. Now, when it comes to copyright, copyright protects your ideas, your art. When it comes to patent, it protects your invention. And when it comes to trademarks, it protects your brands. Now, when at all you, let's say you write a poem and you don't understand that whether that poem will be protected under copyright, patent, or trademark, you need to just question yourself with respect to the nature of that content, whether that content is artistic, whether is it an invention, or whether is it a brand. Now, with respect to poem, it obviously is artistic. So that falls under copyright. Now, there are certain requirements to be protected, right? For copyright, patent, or trademark. With respect to copyright, it needs to be original. The content needs to be original. It cannot be copied, obviously, because as the right says it's a copyright. When it comes to patent, it needs to be novel and it needs to be an invention, right? It doesn't need to, it cannot be an invention which is existing already, right? Then it won't be called an invention at all. And when it comes to trademarks, trademarks will mean that something that identifies your good or your service, right? So another very important aspect of differentiation between these three is the term of protection, the tenure for which you get a protection for these three rights. First, copyright. Copyright, for something which is protected under copyright, you get its protection for your lifetime plus 60 years after the author or the owner of that copyright expires. With respect to patents, you get a protection for 20 years to reap the benefits of your hard work. And for trademarks, you get 10 years plus after the expiry of the 10 years, you get to renew your trademark n number of times for 10 additional years, right? Now, another thing that is a matter of differentiation between these three rights is what are the rights that are granted over here. Now, with respect to copyright, you get the right to control. You get the right to control as to who all will be using your art, your creation. With respect to patents, you get to control the right to prevent from someone else to use that. Because it's your invention, you would want to reap the benefits of that invention. And that's how you can stop any third party to use that invention, which is patentable. And in terms of trademark, you get the right to use that mark. You will be the exclusive right holder to use that mark and no one else will be allowed to use that. Now, coming back to copyright. As today's session is all about copyright, we'll be telling you a lot about why should you get a copyright registered. First of all, what is a copyright? Why should you get it registered? What will be the benefits or what will be the repercussions if you don't get a copyright registered? How can you monetize registering a copyright? And is it even an investment, or will it cost you a lot, or does it cost you does it cost you a lot, or will it just be sort of an investment for you? Now, let us understand a bit about copyright. Now, copyright has basically four forms. There are four kinds of copyright predominantly. First is literary work. Literary works qualify as something that you have written in the and for example, let's say you've written a book, that will be a copyright under literary works. Let's say you've written a poem, or you've written a script, a story, or anything. It does not need to be a big book. You might have just written something about your thoughts or something like that, and if you write it is granted under copyright. Now, another part is dramatic works. Now, what are dramatic works? Dramatic works are such works that are first of all those which are in a dramatic form, basically choreography, or if you're well versed with the theaters, what actors do. So dramatic works should not have any cameras involved in it. Otherwise, it qualifies for the fourth one on your screen, which is cinematography. Now, the third one is artistic works. Artistic works would mean if you painted something, or you've clicked a picture, that will, or you've made a sculpture, that will qualify as artistic works. And the fourth one, producers of cinematography and sound recordings. Now, cinematography, as I told you, will involve a camera. It will involve movies, advertisements, and then sound recordings will involve all your music, all your songs, and the likes. Now, and before we go in forward, I'd also like to request if there are any questions between our speech, between between our slides, you are free to unmute yourself and ask us the question, or you can also drop in your questions in the comment box. We'll be happy to take them. All right. So moving ahead, now, since copyright is a right that is granted to an art, that particular art will obviously have a lot to it. Copyright is generally, it is known as bundle of rights. Now, you just don't get, like, it's not that you only get one right to it, that someone else cannot use it or someone else is restricted or restrained from using your creation. There are a number of rights attached to it. First of all, the first right that is attached to it is rights of reproduction. Now, let's say that you've written a poem, okay, and you show that poem to someone and you recite it somewhere, and they reproduce it in their own book that they've written somewhere, or they reproduce it anywhere for commercial benefits. Now, that person does not have the right to reproduce your poem. Only the creator, the original owner or the original creator of that poem has the right to reproduce the poem. Now, communication to the public. Communication to the public, or basically in layman terms, marketing of your art or marketing of your content will also be used or will also be granted or vested with the original owner of the work. Let's say that tomorrow Netflix comes up with a show, and for which Netflix has all the rights. Now, only Netflix will have those rights to communicate to the public that a show so and so will be launched on Netflix on so and so platform, right? Now, adaptation. Let's say that you have written a story. Let's say it's just a 2-page story and you recite it somewhere, someone likes it so much that they want to make that story introduce that story into theater, or introduce that story into a web series or something like that. Now, that right is also vested with someone who is the original owner or the writer of that script. Even if it's a 2-page script, it doesn't matter. All that matters is whether it is copyrightable or not. So don't think that just because your content or your poem, your picture, your sketch is not very big, or your company or your firm is not very big, it cannot be copyrighted. It can be copyrighted, and copyright has no bars to whether you are big or small, or how well you function, or how which industry you function in. So adaptation would mean that if someone wants to adapt your creation to their own commercial benefits, then you will have the rights to grant them the right to adapt that particular creation of yours. Now, translation of work. Translation of work is another right which is granted under copyright. It is one of the bundles. Now, over here, you must have seen that a lot of movies from other languages are remade in Bollywood. Songs that are copied, a lot of music, or a lot of scripts that are written in some other language which are copied or which are translated and then adapted to some other language. Now, that right also vests with the copyright holder or the owner of the copyright or the creator of the copyright. So all the four rights, right of reproduction, communication to public, adaptation or translation of work, this all is comprised under one copyright. Okay. Now, it is also important that all these rights are alienable. You can grant your rights to someone else, and you can stop someone else to do any of these.
Vansaj, I had one question over here.
Yes.
But I think you're already covering it in the next slide, so I think you can take it.
Was this your question?
Yeah, it was related to this. So I think you can finish it and then.
Sure. Thank you. So now we move on to, now that we have a little bit of understanding of copyright, a question pops up in everyone's mind that is it necessary, is it compulsory, is it mandatory to register a copyright or not? To answer it in a very straightforward manner, it is not. It is not compulsory, it is not mandatory to register your copyright. A copyright comes into existence just by merely you writing it down, or you affix in the legal terms, it is called affixation of the content, wherein you make that content and write it down in a document. You just document that content, whether it's a poem, whether it's a book, whether it's anything, like whether it's your source codes. There must be a lot of entrepreneurs that have their applications coming in. So your source code is also subject matter of copyright, and it will be a subject matter of copyright only and only if you write those codes down, right? So is registration compulsory? No, it's not. But should you get it? Absolutely. And why do we say so? We say so because a registration will grant you the date on which you created that particular copyright or particular content. Now, it is very important to understand here that in case someone, someone is able to get your content, someone is able to, seep into your journal, or someone is able to get your original content, which you might also have an emotional attachment to, that person, if at all that person goes ahead and publishes that and seeks copyright on that, then you will not be able to do anything. Why? Because you will not be able to prove that it was your copyright, you created it originally. Yes, let's say that you take a picture, you click a picture of a beautiful scenery, and you do not get a copyright on it. What happens then? And if someone, and you post it on a social media platform, and someone takes that scenic photo, which is beautiful, by the way, but you do not claim a copyright on it, you do not register a copyright on it, and someone else takes it, gets it on their maybe portfolio and registers it, then you will not be able to seek damages, or you will not be able to safeguard your copyrights on that particular picture. It will be very difficult to prove it in the court that it was your article, it was your invention, or it was your art at the first place, so you hold the copyright on it. So to answer, I think this must be your question. So with respect to whether it's necessary to register or not, but this is what we advise, and this is what everyone's advice would be who knows a little bit about copyright, that if at all you want to protect your rights, it's the best thing that you can do to protect your rights is to claim a copyright on it and to get a registration on it. Now, over here, let's say that tomorrow someone copies your right. What happens if you would have registered? What happens if you would have gotten a copyright on it? Let's say, again, in the scenic photograph example, this time you have the copyright on it, and this time the person who copied your copyright, who copied your photo, has also published it at various journals and has been getting a lot of revenue out of it. Now over here, if you have the copyright on it, if you registered the copyright, then you can show the court as an evidence that, see, this is a document that I can prove with that this was my original creation, and this person is only and only copying it. And and he can obviously not prove that he has the copyright on it, provided that you got it before, right? So in case you have a copyright registration, it becomes very, very easy to prove that you were the first owner and not the one who copied your rightful content.
Vamshaj, I have a question here.
Yes.
Okay, if someone registered his copyright in the in India, what about the international jurisdiction?
So thank you for the question. Copyright is, the Indian Copyright Act is territorial, so it will not apply outside the boundaries of India. Okay. Yes, but it always benefits in case you it is always a good documentary evidence that you already have a copyright over here, and hence if at all you want copyright somewhere outside, and if the jurisdiction of that particular country allows you to submit additional evidence whether you have gotten the copyright in some other country, then it will become an additional, like a supporting document for you to get a registration in that particular country. But in case you get a registration in India, the rights are totally territorial.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had
Yes.
one question. In fact, I have two questions. One is, say that there is a website which has been created, and then a person comes and copies the entire design as it is, maybe even copies the content as it is. But and the first website is not registered, but it's been active, and there are some cache proof available in terms of Google, etc. Site has been active for a longer time, or the domain has been booked for a longer time, or whatever, and the other one copies it. In that kind of a scenario, is it probable that the other person has copied it, and is there some kind of a case that can be made out of it, or what is it like?
So in case of websites, so this is a domain name dispute. It may or may not fall under copyright.
The design has been copied.
Yes, even the design or the whole aspect of that of that website. This is a domain name dispute. As I said, it will obviously depend on the specifics of the case. But then when it comes to domain names, it goes to the domain name disputes, which is not the subject matter of copyright.
And the second thing is that, what happens if the image which has been posted, if it is modified slightly and used, will that be allowed to be used, or will that also come under the same copyright infringement?
So again, let's say that you have a registration, right? And the image that you have and the image that someone has copied, the person has just morphed that image a bit, right? And it is like you can see that there are very minute differences, and there are that person has intended to copy and reap the benefits out of your image. Then obviously a copyright claim can be filed, because if it's visible, if it's entirely visible, and you can see that yes, there are very minute differences, and the entire motive of that person was to reap the benefits of your creation, then yes, it will be.
Okay, thank you.
One question, just in relation with what Ram asked, is in case, okay, I have not copyrighted it, but the original content which is on my laptop or on my phone, a simple photograph, what you kept mentioning. These days, you click a photograph and you have the history of it. When it was clicked, what it was clicked, what was the resolution. So everything which proves that this photograph belongs to me, I am the owner of it. And still, if somebody does it and without my copyright, he tries to take it. But will the court of law not consider this as an evidence that this photograph was originally clicked on my phone with that history which is available?
Vamshaj, if I may answer this.
Yes, sure, Arthur.
So basically what happens is in case of why it is always said that you need to register a copyright, and it is true that you might have it saved on your laptop or your computer. But whenever if you see that the person is infringing your copyright and you wish to go to the court, now the first main important thing why you go to the court is to ask for an interim relief, where you ask that person to stop using that copyright work for a temporary period of time till the ownership is decided. So whenever you go to the court, the first part what the court will ask you is whether you are the owner of that. And for proving that, it takes a little time to prove that whether you to check the records, and it is something which will take time to prove that in the court of law. However, now you have a registration in your name, it will be a public record and it will prove as a prima facie that see I was the owner of this copyright and this person has been infringing. So to get a quick relief, it is always important that you register it. However, in the answering your question, if it is already saved on your computer, the burden of proving that it was first clicked by you and it is your copyright, it is on you. It is on the person who is claiming it.
Thank you, Arthur. And just to quickly add on to Arthur's point here, and to answer your question, and thank you for this question, because I thought of coming to this, but it just skipped my mind. Now, it can also be possible, and it can also be proven or disproven that the date on the camera or the date on the laptop or the date of whatever, whichever digital gadget you used may also be changed, right? So let's say I can do a change of date on my digital gadget today and click a picture. So that also, like the court will definitely take into consideration that aspect as well. So it becomes a little tricky to prove this in the court of law, wherein you mentioned that, see, I have this camera and this camera shows that this is the date, time, and place. These days, place is like the cameras are so advanced that places also get captured where it searches from the location, and so those things can be changed. It is possible, but as Arthur also mentioned, that if you have a public document, if you have a registration, you have a document from the government that this is where, and this is you will have your name on it, you will have the date on it, and most importantly, it will be on the content that you have created, then that particular piece of evidence will be the strongest one.
I understand this, but the next connecting question comes in is basically, okay, somebody
Neil, Vanshaj, I have a request. Okay, I will request all participants to hold their question for the Q&A session. Let's Vanshaj finish the PPT, and I have one more request to all the participants. Let's restrict the question only for the copyright. Vanshaj and Nidhi had a beautiful session on the trademark, which has been already uploaded on our YouTube channel, 10network.in. If somebody has any question on the trademark, I'll request you to please visit our YouTube channel. Let Vanshaj finish the PPT and then we'll take the question. Is that okay, Neil?
Yeah, go ahead. No,
yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mangesh. Thank you, sir. We'll take the questions shortly. Now that we've understood that why copyright should be protected, we'll just quickly run through the procedure. A lot of people think that it will be such a uphill task to get a registration done, filing an application, and it will be too much work. But to bring to your attention, it is not a lot of work actually. All you need to do is file an online application. Then the registry will just take 30 days to issue a diary number. Diary number is basically your application number. And then if at all there are objections from the registry that, okay, we think that this is not copyrightable. Okay, so we think that it is copyrightable. If it thinks that it is copyrightable, it will go through an examination report will be given to you. And then you will be like, the application will be approved and the copyright will be granted. Now, there are times when the registry thinks that the application is not appropriate. But those are times when more than often the problem is with the application. So if your application is correct, those objections will not come. And then in case the objections are not there, then the registration from the application to the registration, the road is pretty clear. So it is actually a very simple task to get a copyright registration. And this is what we advise all the time, that in case you have anything that is a subject matter of copyright, no matter how small it is, you don't know how big it can get, right? So I'll just quickly, I'm sure a lot of you must have watched the movie Gully Boy, and you must remember a scene wherein the character, Ranveer Singh's character, is in his room and he's just writing. He's in his thoughts. He's just writing some songs, and he just writes them down on a piece of paper on his copy, on his notebook, right? So he at that time doesn't know that this particular line or this particular poem will become so big in his life that it may be, and it holds so much emotional quotient to him. And at that point of time, we don't realize that a lot of times. But that's what we're coming to, that even if your creation is small, even if it's just a small source code, even if it's just a small picture, even if it's just a hand-painted image of something, you must consider getting it copyrighted, because that might become the best decision of the artist in that case. So now that we've understood why should we copyright in basically in a jiffy, now my colleague Arthur will make you understand why is it necessary to protect your copyright. Over to you, Arthur.
Arthur, just unmute yourself. Arthur.
Yeah. So thank you, Vansaj. So we have just understood as that copyright arises automatically when an original work is created. So copyright protects original work of authorship, which includes paintings. So today, if you are an artist, you paint anything. It may be anything. It's not necessary that it needs to be something specific. If you paint anything on scenery, that is eligible for copyright. If there is a photograph, if you have written a book, an article, or a poem, even a logo design, where in a business, we all today, it is that everyone business has a logo. So even the design of that logo is eligible for copyright. Now, as someone had said that website, so website has different forms of digital files such as text, tables, compilations of some database, photographs, paintings attached to it. So all these are also components of which are eligible for copyright. So today you have clicked some pictures for your websites and you put it on the website. It is not so if you have if you have it on your website earlier, it is possible you have the copyright, and it is not you can stop someone else's from using it on their website. Later, there is a software code. So software is somewhere which was a question where everyone was asking whether software is covered under copyright or not. So only the source code. So if you have I believe I'm not much expert in software, but what I understand and believe is that software can be made on different levels. Like there's a JavaScript, there's something on iPhone has their own software platform where you can write the codes. So whenever you write that code, you can get copyright over it. So the creators of this work automatically obtains copyright in the work, and it is immediately entitled to protection. So, and this protection comes with an exclusive right. The right is like to reproduce it, to distribute it in copies, to display it in public. Now, in fact, it is also that entitles the owner to authorize others to use that. So out of your bundle of rights, you just give one right to that other person. You authorize him to use it and convert it into some other form. For example, today I've written a comic, and now someone else, so I can give the rights to reproduce it into a cinematographic film. So these are the rights which a copyright holders has it. Now you are definitely, you must be asking these questions to yourself as to, if all these rights arises automatically, why would anyone even consider going through so much hardship and wait for 2-3 months and pay fees and incur such expenses? So the answer is very simple. Registration of copyright greatly enhances your value of your copyright. So just for a moment, you have taken so much. If you are writing an article, I have taken so much pain, I have taken so much time, I must have done a lot of research on it. And there's a lot of intellectual behind writing an article or a book. So don't you think that that needs to be protected? There is, if for example, you have taken up a photograph. Now I'll give you an example of photograph. Let's take an hypothetical condition. You must have seen the movie My Name is Khan. So in that, Shah Rukh Khan, who had played the character of Rizwan Khan, and there was Kajol, who had played the character of Mandira. So in that, he goes and proposes to her that, will you marry me? There was a one condition which she keeps is saying that you show me somewhere in a place in America where I have never been or I have never seen it. So he takes an effort to go and time a sunrise and show that scenic beauty. And now, for example, that same scenic beauty, you capture it in a photograph. So have you not taken efforts to take that photograph and use it? So in these cases, it is always important to get it registered so that in the court of law, because how the court of law functions is, today you have a copyright and you see that other person is infringing the copyright, is using the copyright without their permission. So in such case, if you want to stop him, now looking at the today's Indian judiciary, a matter may go on till years, but there is in IPR, there is one thing which is very famous is you get an interim relief, a temporary relief. So a temporary relief is only granted by a court when you show that you have a prima facie case. You show that you are the owner and I have to stop, and this person is using my material and gaining profit out of it, and therefore I am getting into loss. So to prove this, it is always you need to go to the court and say boss, I have this registration certificate with me, and therefore it proves, it entitles me to be entitles me to be the owner of this copyright. So in that case, looking at that certificate, the court will grant you the injunction in your favor. However, now take a situation where you do not have the registration certificate. I go to the court. The first question the court asks me is, are you the owner? I would say, yes, I'm the owner. I have this copy and I had made it a few years back. Now, the other side will definitely say that, no, it was first created by me. Now, in this case, to prove these things is something which is related to, it is a matter of dispute, and this might take time. So during that hearing, till the time it is not actually decided as to who is the owner in this, the court will never grant you injunction. And the infringer who's using the copyright work without any permission will keep using it, and he'll be gaining profit, and it will be a complete loss for your business. So therefore, it is very necessary to protect your copyright, and it also gives you other benefits. For example, today you are a owner, you have a registration certificate, and you are the owner. You can even assign and license, give it for license to the other person. You can even claim damages. If you have a registration certificate, the court will not only grant you the damages for it, it will also grant you the legal cost which you have incurred. However, in other case, it is not possible. Then, since it is always said that copyright is an asset, it's an intangible asset which comes at your asset side of your balance sheet. So registration of a copyright is important because that person may even raise loan. Suppose if his copyright is something which is like, for example, I'll give you an example of T-Series. T-Series is a music company. They have a lot of sound recordings with them. So all these are their assets. So on that basis, they can claim, even they can go and raise a loan. Now, going on the next slide, we'll understand copyright is something, the main objective is to safeguard the authors. Now there is another objective where copyright is to enhance and develop the society. So to allow that, there is something called fair use or fair dealing of any literary, dramatic, musical, artistic work. So for example, if now today you are using a book, let's take an example. I go to a library, and in that library, I take a book of a famous author or a publisher, and I use that book for my research purpose or for my private study. So in these cases, it won't amount to infringement. Though I may have not taken the permission of that person, but still it won't amount to infringement because I'm using it because my use is under a fair use and fair dealing. Second is something when you want to criticize or review a copyright work. If you, for example, if you take a paragraph from a book or from a movie, or you take a dialogue from a movie and you try and criticize that dialogue, and you write a review or you write an article on that. So in such cases, you may have not taken permission, but still it won't amount to infringement. Third is when any of the copyright work is used in the judicial proceedings. Like if you use any material which is a copyright material and you use it for a judicial proceedings, like a lawyer playing a song to prove a case, and there are many times even the judges quote in their judgment from a famous writer. Like I've heard once a judge quoting Shakespeare saying what is there in the word in a trademark case. So in such cases also it won't amount to infringement. Now there's something where you use a copyright to use it before a non-performing audience. For example, if you play some songs in a school, that won't amount to infringement. You do not have to take license for that purpose. Or if you are having a party at your house and you play some music, for those things you do not need permission because you are doing it in front of a non-paying audience. Now, making of a sound recording in literary, dramatic or musical work under certain conditions means that if there is a presentation, if you are a media student, or you are a student who is trying and collecting all the materials which are copyrighted, you make it in one form and you put a sound recording behind it. Basically, you make a presentation out of it. In such cases, for an educational purpose, it won't amount to infringement. Now, we'll go to the next slide and we'll talk about authorship and ownership. So this is one of the very important aspects, and it is very necessary to understand this if you want to go for assignment and licenses, which my colleague Vansaj will explain it to you in the later slides. So whose rights are protected? To understand this, we always know that it is the creator whose rights are protected under Copyright Act. Then second, we'll also ask ourselves is who is the author? So it depends on the work. For example, if you have written a book or an article, so in that case, the writer who writes the book is the author. In case of a painting, the artist who makes that painting. In case if you have made a tattoo, even a tattoo comes under copyright. It comes under artistic work. Even a dance move can also be copyrighted because it comes under dramatic work. So all these cases, in their author is the person, is the artist, is the performer who's doing that dramatic work, or who has written it who's written it on a paper, will be the author of that work. Now, there is one thing where sound recording and cinematographic films are involved. Now, who will be the author in that case? Because sound recording is something where a lyricist writes his lyrics, so he's the writer. There's a composer who composes the music, who makes his musical notations. Then there is a singer who performs that. So all these when comes together, it becomes a sound recording, and that sound recording is with the producer, because the producer has got all those three together, and therefore the author in this case will be the producer. Now, to understand who is the first owner of the copyright work, we need to understand as to we'll take it in the next slide. I'll explain it with the combination with the next slide. So now, who is the owner of a work if it's produced under an author's employment? So now the difference between author and ownership comes over here. Now, for example, Times of India. Times of India employs many journalists to write articles. So in this, Times of India also signs a contract with the journalist or with the people who create contents for them, is that anything which they create during the course of their employment will be the ownership will lie with the Times of India, that is the employer. So in this case, the author may be the journalist, but the ownership which lies will be with the Times of India, that is the employer. Now there is another example in the same case. Now this is something which was done under the employer's contract. Now there is something where you do it for as a freelance for a valuable consideration. So for explaining this, you all must have seen the movie Spider-Man. Not the recent one which is coming up, the one earlier where there was some famous dialogue which said, with great power comes great responsibility. So in that movie, the Spider-Man, Daily Bugle newspaper hires Peter Parker as a freelance photographer, as he was the only person who used to provide clear pictures of Spider-Man. So in this case, Peter Parker, who clicks Spider-Man's pictures as a freelancer photographer, will be the owner of the photograph. Now, as soon as the person sells the photograph to the newspaper for a valuable consideration, in this case, the ownership will be shifted to the newspaper company. This is not something which will shift automatically because it was an under employer's contract, but this is something where a valuable consideration is paid, like the businesses of a paparazzi. Like if you click a photograph and you go and sell it, so that like this, the ownership will change through the valuable consideration. Now, since now we have understood as to who is an author and who is an owner, what is important now, why this Copyright Act was first even came into place is because it was made so that the people could earn royalty from their work. So now royalty is something where my colleague Vansaj will explain it to you all. So over to you, Vansaj.
Thank you, Atir. So before we jump into the monetization aspect of copyright, how about we get into some kind of a game over here, and it's a copyright trivia wherein I'll just pose a question. It's a true or false question, true or false trivia, and just let us know in the comment section, or you're free to unmute yourself and just say true or false of whatever you think. Since now we have been able to deliver some sort of an understanding with respect to why copyright, what is copyright, and the entire peripheral about copyright. So let's just quickly do this like a very small trivia on copyright, right? So tell us, are ideas and thoughts can be protected as copyright? Is it true or false?
False.
Is it true or false? Ideas and thoughts can be protected as copyright. It's false. So as I mentioned earlier, you need to fixate it, or you need to document your ideas or your thoughts in order for it to be copyrighted. a performance for entertainment purpose does not require consent of the owner of the work. Now, let's say that someone wants to perform for entertainment purpose, and he wants to perform using something that is owned by a third party. Will that require consent from the owner of the work?
Three of them have answered yes, Vanshaj.
Well, that's false actually. So, I mean, since it's a performance for entertainment purpose, let's say that today I'm at my house, there's a house party going on, and it's just purely for entertainment purpose. I'm not taking any revenue, I'm not taking any money out of it. As my colleague Atir explained, that there are cases, there are such situations wherein you do not have to take consent if you're performing in front of a non-paying audience, such as schools, right? Such as if you go to an orphanage and if you want to perform something for them, if you want to use someone else's work and show something to them, then the permission of the owner of the work is not mandatory. Making a copy of a licensed computer program for backup purpose amounts to infringement. So will this amount to infringement? Let's say you buy, I'll give you an example. Let's say you buy Windows 98. 98 is a very old Windows. Let's say you buy Windows 10 from Microsoft, and you back it up in your system as a copy of that licensed program. Will that amount to infringement or not? Has someone answered? I'm sorry, I'm not able to do the,
Three of them have answered yes. One, Mr. Vinayak Kabra, had said no.
All right. So it's a no, because see, making a copy of a licensed program, so you've already purchased that particular program, right? You've already paid the royalty aspect of it, the monetizing aspect of it to the owner of the program. It will not amount to an infringement if you just create it for your backup purposes. You're not selling it out. You're just creating it for your own backup. A school teacher downloads videos for a class project online and posts it on a web link for everyone to view. It has infringed the copyright of the content owner. Is it true or false? A school teacher downloads videos for a class project online and posts it on a web link for everyone to view.
Four of them are saying false.
No, sir. No, sir.
It is true. It is true. It has infringed the copyright of the content owner because it was posted online. It wasn't given to the class upfront. It was posted online for everyone to view, and the teacher had downloaded the videos, right, from somewhere else. So it wasn't her content, and that's why it's true. It has the teacher has in fact infringed the copyright of the content owner.
Vanshaj, Neha, she had made a point, but the purpose was educational.
Purpose was educational. I understand that, but even if the purpose was educational, the rights of that particular content owner or the content creator, if at all let's say this content was not downloaded, it was purchased, or let's say it was available publicly, then of course it would not amount to copyright infringement. But since it was given on a web link where everyone could view it, then it will amount to copyright infringement.
If I could share one experience on so what had happened answering this only. So there is a very thin line also in this. What happens is during the lockdown, the physical newspapers could not be distributed, because once this lockdown was announced, it was very difficult. No one was having any physical copy of a newspaper. And in that case, this newspaper company started posting PDF copies of the newspaper. So now this PDF newspaper copies, since it is something which is, it is something like an educational thing only, where you can share it. So people were trying and sharing this PDF copies to everyone. And it was just forwarded on WhatsApp without asking, without any authorization or without any permission. So what had happened is the newspaper company had gone to the court saying that, see, our rights have been infringed. So there was the same stand taken by the defendant saying that we are using it for educational purpose. This is not something which we are gaining any profit out of it. But what the court had to say was very interesting in this, because usually it comes under fair use. But now what the court had to say is that since this is something where a intellectual is being used in this, there is a trademark over there, there's a logo over there, the journalists are writing articles, there's a written work. So in that case, what is happening is, because you are distributing it online without permission, or without people even going on the website of, for example, let's say Times of India is giving it. So without even people going on Times of India's website, they are just getting it on their mobile phones. So what is happening is Times of India is losing their revenue. If you wanted, you could go to the Times of India's website, or you could take authorization, you could take subscription from them. So usually all these newspapers have subscriptions. So that is what generates revenue. So whenever you try and infect someone's revenue, in that case, it will amount to infringement. And this was the case which was even Delhi High Court had approved it. So in that, so because of this also, this reason, you could say that anything which is an online stuff and where some revenue is generated through that online mode, and you just try and copy it, and you just try and distribute it to many people, in that case, it will amount to infringement. However, there's a thin line, because what happens is, suppose you have that content, you have a book. Now that book, you have been trying and you have taken a permission for that book, and you try to copy that book, and then you use that book to teach it to the others. In that case, it won't amount to infringement. But over here, just because you're trying and affecting the revenue of the person who's generated that copyright, it will amount to infringement.
Thank you, Atir. I hope we've tried to answer your question. We've answered the question. In case there are any follow-up questions, we'll take it at the end of the session. Now, the next one. Diana loved making of the Hindi language movie Kahani and wants to use a few quotes from the movie in an article for her journalism class. She has infringed the copyright of the content creator. True or false? She wants to use those few quotes for an article for her journalism class.
5 of them had said false. No.
That's correct. Absolutely. So we are getting there. People have
now we have started understanding
the law, and we've started appreciating how copyright works. Great, guys. Now Ricardo forgot to copyright his screenplay for an upcoming theater play before sending it out to the agents for review. He is still eligible to copyright his work. So what Ricardo did was he wrote a screenplay and sent it to the agents before the upcoming theater play, but he did not get a copyright for his work. He did not get a copyright registration done. But is he still eligible to get his copyright, to get his work copyrighted?
Yes, 4 of them have answered yes.
Absolutely. Great, guys. It is true. So it is not time bound. It is not a time bound exercise that you need to do it today only. As Atir also mentioned before, just by being your content being existent, you get a copyright. It's just that the registration you will have to file. Architecture students usually take pictures of streets and heritage buildings as part of their project work, as also put it up on Facebook. It qualifies for fair use. So let's say I'm an architecture student. I take pictures of the streets, heritage buildings, and I put it up on my Facebook. Will it qualify for fair use?
Three are saying yes, and Ram is saying no.
Okay, so it does amount to fair use. Why does it amount to fair use is what we need to understand. It amounts to fair use because, most importantly, see, I'm only using it on my personal profile. It's Facebook, it's a personal profile. I'm not making any money out of it. I don't have any commercial benefits coming out of using that particular pictures of streets or heritage buildings, and it does not have any amount of effect on those streets and heritage buildings as well. They are not losing on money if I put it on my Facebook, right? So it does qualify as fair use. Thank you. Now, all right. So now I have a bit of your attention, and let's just go back and understand the commercial aspects of copyright. So now that you've understood, and a lot of you have answered it correctly also, so I'm very confident about it that you have understood a lot about copyright. We'll also dig a little bit deeper as to, since now you have gotten a copyright, let's say you've gotten a copyright, you have a registration certificate on your name, in your hand, what next? Can you make money out of it? The answer is yes. It has as Atir also mentioned earlier, it gives a boost to your monetary aspect of your copyright as well. If you have a registration, you have a document proving that this is your art, this is your picture, this is your poem, this is your movie, then it does appreciates the value of that copyright. Now, there are different ways to do this. There are different ways to make money out of your copyright, one of which is royalty. Now, royalty, as it works, is that you give permission to someone else to use your copyright. It could be anything. In this example, we're taking an example of songs, wherein songs are listed on these streaming platforms. On the right-hand side of the screen, as you can see, there's Apple Music, there's Spotify, there's Amazon Music. These are the three which are quite famous. Tidal and Deezer are also the music streaming services. Now, what happens is the original owners of these songs will give permission to use their music, to use their songs on the music service streaming apps. In return, whatever revenue the music streaming apps make, they will have to give a small percentage of that particular song. Now, it totally depends on what kind of an agreement have you signed with these streaming services. But in general, as a normal exercise, these songwriters come into a royalty agreement wherein they have to, the music streaming services will have to pay the original songwriters or the song owners on pay per stream. So as many times the stream takes place, as many times the song must have been played on any of these streaming sites. That's where the deciding factor lies as to how much royalty will you make. So let's say we talk about Apple Music. So every song, let's say my song plays on Apple Music will grant me 0.002 USD for every song that is played. Now, to earn $2, the song must have been played on Apple Music for 2,000 times. So for 1,000 times, I'm sorry. Now, similarly, for Spotify, for Amazon Music, for Tidal, for Deezer, it's all the same. So this is one way that you can, get royalty, that you can make money out of your copyright. And now this is just one example. This is a very big example that I'm taking. I mean, this applies to small things as well. Let's say that you've written a poem, right? And there's an artist there's a singer, okay, or there's someone who wants to recite your poem at an event for which he is getting paid. You may get into a contract with him that, yes, I will grant you rights to recite my poem that I have written for your event, but you will have to give me a cut. That cut is royalty. That particular fee for your work is the royalty that you make. Now, if you have a copyright on it, if you have a registration on it, the rates will obviously increase because you have a copyright on, you have a document that proves that this is yours and no one else can use it. And if someone sees this document, they would definitely want to pay more because now you have a document that proves that, yes, this is a legitimate poem or a story that I want to recite, and I will pay you whatever you want. Not whatever you want, to be very honest, but whatever is mutually decided between the two parties. Now, again, on your left-hand side of the screen, a royalty is a legally binding payment made to the author or the owner of the copyright for the ongoing use of their copyrighted works. Now, these royalty payments are binding to the streaming music services, or let's say, in my example, this reciter of the poem. So this will be a binding contract on when and wherever the person recites or uses the music or the song. Another aspect to making benefits, monetary benefits out of copywriting is assignment and licensing of copyright. This is very similar to similar to what we had discussed in our trademark session. Now here, with respect to copyrights, let's first talk about assignment of copyright. We had spoken about that there are different bundles of rights, right? In the first part of the presentation where I spoke about bundles of rights, we had discussed that right to copy, right to reproduce, sell, publish, and adapt. So these are different kinds of bundles that are imbibed in one copyright. Now, there are two options here that we can go ahead with. One is assignment, wherein you transfer the ownership of the copyright. Second is licensing, where you give permission to use your copyright for a bit. Let's talk a bit about assignment. When it comes to assignment, you transfer the ownership. So you own the copyright, but now you get into an agreement with a third party, wherein you are transferring all your interests, all your rights. You're basically selling your copyright to a third party. Now here, of course, now if you have a registration, the third party would want to buy it for a higher price because now you have a document showcasing that, see, I already have a registration to this. No other person will be able to use my content, my picture, my poem, my music, my song, my story, anything with whatever is the subject matter of copyright. My source code for any applications, they will not be able to use it. And if at all you do not have a registration, if at all there is no registration and you've disclosed it to someone and you do not have a non-disclosure agreement with them, then it becomes, and if they copy that content of yours, then it becomes very difficult to prove that that was your content. If at all you have a registration and they still go ahead and copy it, then you have a claim that, see, I have the registration and they should not have copied it. It was just that I was pitching my idea or pitching my script to that person for their own use or own utilization, which we did not agree to. And after that, they've just gone ahead and copied it. Now, licensing. Now, what is licensing? Licensing would mean that you are only granting a small portion or one of the bundles of your copyright. Now, let's say there was one bundle of let's say right to sell. Now, when you license your copyright, there are different kinds of rights to it. There's right to sell, there's right to adapt, there is right to communication, there is right to translate. All these rights will be vested in you, but you will have the right to permit someone else to do any of these things. Let's say that you go ahead and give some, let's say you've clicked a picture from your smartphone or from your camera and you have a registration for it. Now tomorrow, if someone, let's say a 5-star hotel wants that picture to be put in their lobby, right? You can give a license to them. You can grant a license to them that yes, you can have this picture on at your lobby, maybe behind your reception, and you can frame it, yes, but you can only use it for a particular time. Let's say you give them the rights to use that particular picture until, let's say, for 1 year. And then after that, they will have to remove that particular. So here, you're not transferring the ownership of your copyright. You're just giving them a right, giving them a permission to use that picture on the reception for a definite period of time. The difference between assignment and licensing here would be that in assignment, you're transferring the right. You're giving all the rights that are vested with you to a third party. But with licensing, you still hold the copyright, but you're permitting the use of that particular copyright for a specific period of time. Now, as I mentioned, it's a bundle of rights. You can give any bundle, right? You can either give to sell, to reproduce, to communication, right? So there's another thing that you can do is you can restrict where your copyright is being used. Let's say I've written a song and my song is published. It's a big hit now, and I want that my song is only played in, let's say, Gujarat. So I'll get into a contract, a licensing agreement with the third party that will only allow them to play that song in the territory of Gujarat. It will not go outside Gujarat. So you can also dictate the terms wherein you decide where territorially, where all can you give that particular permission. Now, after the complete, so
just to remind you, we have last 10-15 minutes. We also need to take questions, so just plan it accordingly.
All right. Okay. Thank you. So this was basically the difference between assignment and licensing. I'll be very quick. Quickly, we'll also talk about moral rights. Now, so as we mentioned that when you assign something or when you sell your rights, all your rights are gone, but there are inalienable rights that will not be that will not depart, even if you've sold all your copyright. Now, these moral rights are such rights which will be there imbibed with the original owner or the original creator, even if he has sold all its copyright to a third person. Now, the right will kick in if at all the third party who the copyright has been sold to mutilates or distorts the creation. Let's say I've written a script. It's a very short play, and there are characters in it, and I sell it to someone. I sell it to a media house or anyone for that matter. Now that media house has given me whatever consideration I wanted, has given me, we've signed a contract and everything, but they have changed the essence of the character. Let's say the lead role was a positive role of the character. The lead character was a positive character, and they've changed it to a negative character. Now they cannot do this. My copyright that I have sold to them is with respect to this. The essence has to remain the same. They cannot distort the copyright. They cannot mutilate the copyright. They cannot modify in a sense that it hurts the sentiments or it hurts the essence of my copyright. So quickly, the reputation, integrity, and attribution needs to be there, needs to be preserved even after I have alienated all my rights on my copyright. Now, there are questions wherein people might say that it may be very it may be very costly, or it may be very difficult to get it done. Difficulty part we've already dealt with. It's very easy. We've shown you a flow chart. It was absolutely very easy to get a copyright. But when it comes to the fee portion, yes, the fee that you see on your right is not the only fee. There will be a professional fee of the lawyers as well. However, this fee is just an investment. This fee will only be one of the investments for something very big. Like you do not know, like no one knows that their art or their their story or their song or anything that they've written or they've composed or they've created may become so big that this fee, maybe 500 for the dramatic work or 5,000 for a cinematographic films, will become like a minute, very minimal cost or very minimal investment, as I would like to say, because the return on these aspects, the return on the registration fee or the return on the cost of the fee to get a registration will be immense. So to cut it short, yes, there are fees. The fee, as you can see on your right hand side, this fee is something which is very small in terms of when you look at a bigger picture when it comes to copywriting your content. Now over to Atir. He will discuss as to if at all you need rights from someone with respect to your copyright or with respect to someone else's copyright. How can you go about it? Over to you, Atir.
Yeah. So since we do not have that much time, also I'll not go in detail. But what is this phonographic performance licenses as IPR Novex Communications? Just to understand that these are copyright societies. There is another society, it's also known as Indian Reprographic Rights Organization. So what is this is like, suppose for example, today I have a song and that song needs to be played in a restaurant. Or if for example, I am a commercial restaurant owner and I need to play a particular song in my restaurant. What will I do is I cannot go to each and every person, because in a day, I guess there are a lot of songs played. And in fact, there are songs played on a request of the person. So in that case, for example, I pick a song from a particular movie like 3 Idiots. Now that 3 Idiots song, the rights are vested with T-Series. So the T-Series rights are always with Novex. So you can, there are on their website, like Phonographic's website, IPRS and Novex, they have a list. So from that list, you can see which song you want to play, and you can go and get that rights for that. And for rights, as Vanshad earlier explained, that you can get a license for that. And you can go and apply. There are the tariff rates, which are already, everything is available on the Copyright Society's website. It is like a very convenient thing for a person in a copyright. So you can go to their website, you can apply in an appropriate format, where there's a format given on the website itself. And at the same time, there is something Indian Reprographic Rights Organization, which specifically targets the literary work. So any particular work, if you want from a book or from a publications, and since you cannot contact that person or the author or the publication, you can go to the Indian Reprographic Organization and they will grant you their rights. So for example, even if you are a creator, even if you are an author, you have written a book or you have written an article or a poem or anything which is also related to your business, what you can do is you can go and register it with IRPO, and they will ensure that your rights are protected. And also this Copyright Society not only has the job to act as a one-stage platform, what it also does is it also files infringement cases on your behalf. So the authors who cannot have that, so there's an author, as a normal author, wouldn't have so much money to go and file cases against each and every infringer. So in this case, the Copyright Society comes into place, and there is a small amount of fee which they charge to the author from their royalty. I guess if it is 15%, and that fee, you can get it registered, or you can, by that fee, you can get yourselves registered with this Copyright Society, and then the Copyright Society will act on your behalf. So there is this video game licensing. This also works as the same. If you are a game developer and you want to go and take rights from a particular team or a player, what you can do is you can have a video game licensing agreement with the federation itself. Now, let's take an example, EA Sports. So EA Sports won't go to each and every team and get a copyright from them. What it will do is it will go to the FIFA, who is a association who looks after the games of football. Now, for example, if you want some rights relating to IPL, you will go to the BCCI, and they will grant rights. After this, another one is the music licensing agreement. Now, for example, there are some people, authors who do not want to go through a copyright society as they don't want to pay their fees. And they believe that they will be able to manage their work by themselves. So in that cases, there is a music licensing agreement directly with the creator of that song and the person who wants to use it. Now, after all this, we have understood about the licensing and everything relating to the copyright society. One of the most important aspects to understand in copyright is to, as we use it very commonly, that you are infringing my copyright or you're doing. So we need to first basically understand what is copyright infringement. Copyright infringement always refers to an unauthorized use. Anything you do it without permission, or it amounts to copyright infringement. Now, what are the remedies? Suppose now you know that this is a copyright. We have understood that yes, this is something which is known as copyright infringement, and some person is infringing my product. Once I have understood that, I need to also understand what are the remedies available with me. Now, remedies available are of two kinds. One is a criminal remedy, and another one will be a civil remedy. So now criminal remedy is given under section 63 of the act itself. So under that, you can send that infringer for 3 years, for a minimum of 6 months of imprisonment, and it can go up to maximum 3 years, depending upon the infringement case-to-case basis. And also there can be fine, which can be levied on the on the infringer, which can be minimum of 50,000 and which may extend up to 2 lakhs rupees. Now, to stop a particular person, you can also approach the police. Today, I'm a publication company, and I've seen that there are few people who are making first copies of my book and selling it in the market. Now, they do not have 1 or 2 books with them. They have a whole market which is which has all first copy books, which is something which is done without my permission or without my authorization. So in this case, the police has a right, without a warrant, can go and search that place and also seize those infringing goods. Now there are civil remedies, which is very important, and this is the most used civil, because everyone in copyright today is majority of the people only look for a civil remedy. Because what is a civil remedy is that whenever you can, you know that there's a person using your work, and because of that work, you are incurring some damages. For today example, I have made a particular copyright work, like I've written an article or I've written a book, and that book is being used by someone. Instead of buying it from me directly, people are trying and making copies of that and getting it in a much cheaper amount. Suppose if I'm selling an original book for 200 rupees and someone is using and copying it and selling it for a less than what I'm selling it for. So I'm incurring those damages. As a copyright holder, I'm entitled to those, to my premium prices. But over here, I'm not getting it. So in that cases, you can get damages for that. And if, as we had already earlier discussed, if you have a registration certificate, you'll not only get the damages, you'll also get the legal cost which you have incurred for filing this case and getting your work entitled and stopping the other person. And there is something called accounts for profits. Suppose a person has already used that work, and if he wants to, and suppose for example, I have appeared in one matter which was a which was a movie, and that movie was being broadcasted by a television channel without my permission, but it was already broadcasted. So now what will happen? The court ordered the defendant who was using my material without permission to account of profits which was being incurred during when the movie was played. There is advertisement, and those advertisement generates revenue. So during those period, whatever the ads were played and whatever the revenue was generated, the court asks the defendant to you to take that accounts, and then later on when the matter is fully decided, it will come to me. And there is another example is called John Day order. Now, what is this? This is something, there are many times where you don't know who's actually infringing your product. For example, if there is a movie and in that movie, I don't know how many people are using that. There are internet service providers, there are cable operators. They are just releasing the movie on TV. So in these cases, if you don't know as to who's the defendant or who's the person infringing that order, the court can pass, the court has there's a power to pass a John Day order, which says, which the plaintiff can go and give it to the person who is actually infringing it. So that is, it also it can also be said that it's a to whomsoever concern order. So that's it from our side, and we'll open to take up questions now.
Yeah. Thank you, Vansaj and Atir, for the beautiful and the insightful presentation. You had explained the subject in most simplistic manner. Before taking the questions, Atish or Vansaj, can you just stop screen sharing? Friends, we have a special request from the speaker. They want to take a photograph of all the attendees who are present in the session. So I'll request all of you just to switch on your camera just for 5 seconds. Quickly. Ram, you can do the needful. Vinayak, Vaishnavi, Sonal, Gulshan. We don't have much time, just quickly. Shreyas. Murshad.
Yeah, just quickly switch on your cameras once again and just
for 5 seconds. Just for 5 seconds. Sandeep, Sopan, Red, Renu, Nehak, Dr. O.P. Gupta, Mangesh Bahadkar, Mr. Kannan.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Ram. So Vansaj and Atir, I'll be asking some basic question for the understanding of the participant about the procedural part, about the application and the fees and the timeline. So who is? I'll request participant, please. Yeah. So who is the statutory authority, Vansaj, as far as the Copyright Act is concerned? Who grants the copyrights? What is the procedure whether the application can be submitted online? And the third is, what is the expected date of having a copyright? And the connected question is that by merely applying for a copyright, one can start mentioning C, in his as I can see there in your PPT presentation, it was mentioned copyrighted by KD Singhani and company.
So the statutory authority is the Registry of Copyrights, which is under the Ministry of Innovation. The procedure is, so we discussed the procedure, but the entire time that it takes to get a registration will depend on case-to-case basis. But now these days, on an average, what we can say is about 5 to 6 months. But this is what we're trying to tell you, that even if it takes more than that, it is worth doing it. It is worth all the efforts that you would want to take. And with respect to the fee also, because these are the concerns that obviously a lot of people will have with regards to the fee and the time that it takes. It is all more than worth it.
Okay. Yeah. We have a very interesting question from Ms. Nehak. Her question is whether a specific design can be copyrighted also and trademarked also.
So this is a very good question actually. But this question will take an entire session to answer, to be very honest. To answer, see, I cannot even answer it in a very small manner, because this is an entire subject that we can discuss. We can actually prepare a presentation on this question itself.
No problem. But, point taken.
Yeah. But, yes.
If in case if you want to understand it in short, what happens is, in a design, it is something which is on a paper, and you make a design, you get a copyright out of it. Now, how it differentiates it with trademark is when you use it to sell it for goods and services. So that is something which there's a major difference, that in a copyright, you just use it because you have created it, because it's an original work, you have put it on paper, you get a copyright out of it. Now, how that logo or design can be used in trademark depends on the goods and services you use, because that will distinguish it from others.
Okay. Yeah. So next question, I think so it's more related to today's youngster. Very interesting question, Vanshaj. When you use any sound on our videos on Instagram, Reel, the videos gets removed by the Instagram stating copyright infringement. So question is, can we repost that video after mentioning the credits of the original content owner?
Right. Thank you so much. This
question is from Gulshan Khan, Mr. Gulshan Khan.
Thank you, Mr. Gulshan, for this wonderful question. This question is asked a lot. So when you make an account on Instagram, whenever we make an account, we're just habitual of just accepting all the terms and conditions, and no one has the time to go through all those terms and conditions, right? Even I don't, like no one does that, right? So when you accept those terms and conditions specifically to Instagram, you give them rights to reshare, reproduce, and use your content. So in case you've given them the rights to reshare, reuse the content, and if someone else reposts your post as their post, you will not be able to do anything, because you've given them the rights, you've given them the acceptance that yes, you can use my content, but on that platform, not anywhere else. So let's say today, so I recently found out that when TikTok was there in India, you could even download those videos. So when you could download those videos, now that you've downloaded the videos and you are using that content on some other platform, then yes, it would amount to a copyright infringement. But in case the TikTok agreement terms and conditions had that clause in it that yes, if at all you repost it on TikTok, then it won't amount to a copyright infringement.
Thank you, Vanshaj. We will just take last two questions. Anil, just to answer your question, we are soon going to have a separate session on patent itself. So we'll take your question whenever we have a detailed session on the Patent Act. So last two questions. One is from Mr. Ramkumar. Vanshaj and Atir, is there any database from which one can find out that this material or this literature has already been copyrighted?
Yeah. Vanshaj, you can answer. No problem.
All right. Thank you. So they are trying to get the database in. They have been trying to do that since a while now, and they will surely be able to get it there. But if you want an online database right now, I think a simple Google search will be better as of today. Or yes, you can do a physical checking of the registry. That is possible. Online is a little tricky because they don't have the database available as of today.
Okay.
One thing, if you want to check the database on the internet, what you can do is, if you know what is if suppose it's a picture and the picture has some name, or if you know that the content, there is a website or register of copyright. You can go there and you can just type it over there. But it is very difficult to see the work. It is only the description and the name, what is under what it is copyrighted, is only available. So for that, for example, you already have seen the content on an internet, and you know what is that content of the name of that picture. In that case, you can go and check as to which person who's the owner of that copyright. That you can check. Otherwise, you cannot check till now. There is no such database available where you can check what is the content and how it is.
Last question of the session, Vanshaj and Atir. This question is from Renu Singh. Is copying the content or images from the website for preparation of classroom PPTs, that is for the educational purpose, can it be considered as a copyright infringement?
Very, very specific question, actually. Now, it totally depends on where are you copying these from. So there are certain images on Google. If you do a very simple Google search, and that the Google search engine works in a way where it will show you those images that have been paid for in the top searches, right? And then in those searches only, there will be some images that will be free to use, which have become a public part of public domain. So if you're using those images that have become part of public domain, then it won't amount to any, basically it won't amount to copyright infringement. But there is a catch over here, since you're using it for educational purposes. Since if your motive is just to educate people and you are not reaping any benefits out of it, then it will come under fair use.
Yeah, thank you, Vanshaj. Vanshaj and Aati, we are getting a lot of questions. So what I'll request Ram to share Vanshaj and Aati's email ID and mobile number over chat box. Due to paucity of time, we'll not be able to take all the questions. So those who are having question can directly get in touch with Vanshaj and Aati or mobile. Thank you. Now I'll request our main 10 members here, Rajiv Mundra, to propose a formal vote of thanks to today's speaker. Over to you, Rajiv.
Good afternoon, all. Mangesh, am I?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. Good afternoon, all. I have been given the pleasant task of proposing a hearty vote of thanks to the speakers for today's session. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Advocate Vanshaj Mehta and Advocate Atir Syed for their wonderful presentation on this Copyrights Act. They have at the beginning, they introduced us to what is the difference between the copyright, patent, royalty, and trademarks, because this is something which is very important. I mean, people overlap that, or there's a lot of confusion that what is a copyright, what is a patent, what is a trademark. So understanding that difference, and then they did the entire presentation in a very crisp manner, in a very simple language for all of us who are non-technical to understand the difference. Because me as a professional also, I do get a lot of questions from our clients that what do we do, how do we do the registration. So both of them have taken us through the entire process in a very brief and crisp manner, and they have also made it very interactive with that question, so that all of the participants can clearly understand the content. Thank you once again to both of you. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all the 10 members who are present for this session and their continuing support for our webinars and our offline sessions which we are conducting. And most of all, to all the participants who have participated in this session. We had more than 50 participants today, and that's a wonderful response. And they have shared a lot of insightful questions to all of us, which have helped us to educate ourselves more in this matter. Thank you all once again for taking part in this session.
Yeah,
Back to you, Mangesh.
Thank you, Raju. I'll just conclude the session with the concluding remarks. Before that, I'll request all the participants, please do visit our 10 YouTube channel. It is 10network.in. This session will be uploaded shortly on the YouTube channel, and you'll also able to see the videos of our past webinar. Please do visit our YouTube channel. So friends, what you saw today is 10 members share every week. That is positive energy, knowledge about what's happening in the industry, support to any operational problem that is beyond our domain expertise, opportunity to learn from other fellow entrepreneurs, and added benefit is to chance to attract a lot of business. So who should join 10 and why? Budding or established entrepreneurs are welcome to join 10. 10 is committed to support, promote, and develop entrepreneurs, and our activities are focused on building the entrepreneurial community. So if you are an entrepreneur who understands and wants to deal with the pressure of entrepreneurship in a prepared and a confident manner, you should join 10. For this financial year, that is from for financial year 2021, the membership fees is kept at 10,000 rupees, and one-time registration fees is 2,000. If anyone is interested, I am the relationship manager. I had shared my mobile number over chat box. Please do get in touch with you. Thank you. Over to you, Ram.
Thank you, participants. We end the session for today and look forward to meeting you all on 26th, where we have a session on LinkedIn by one of the top speakers out there. We will be sharing the session details shortly. Do follow us on WhatsApp. I've shared the link where you can get connected with us on the WhatsApp group, and also you can follow our channels on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, whatever is your choice, and stay updated for our events. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Vanshus. Thank you, Adi, once again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.